Welcome to the Buried Pixels, digging up the past, one game at a time. Stick around, will you?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Buried Pixels, and today we are looking at Power Rangers on the Sega Genesis. So this game came out in 1994 and was published by Sega, and there's actually several different versions of this game. There was a Sega Game Gear version, a Super Nintendo version, a Sega CD version, and even a Game Boy version. So the version I played the most was the Sega Genesis version. I did play the Super Nintendo version some, but to me it wasn't as good. It was a little different. It was more of a side-scrolling fighting game. In gameplay style, if I had to compare it to another game, maybe like Double Dragon or something like that. Maybe it's a side-scrolling, but you can't really go up and down from what I remember. You just can go side to side. It was not a bad game, but I kind of grew up playing the Sega Genesis version, which is more of like a 1v1 fighting game like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, as opposed to the fighting game style that was in the same, the same light of Final Fight or Double Dragon. But yeah, the Sega version of this game is pretty fun to me. Now, it is a little basic. It doesn't have too much depth to it, but if you're a Power Rangers fan, it's a lot of fun. The controls work really well. The character movements and animations are all really spot on and really make you feel like a Power Ranger. You can like run forward or do backflips to back up. It's just really cool. But you have, each one of the Power Rangers you can play as. You have the Blue Ranger, Black Ranger, Pink Ranger, Red Ranger, and you have the Green Ranger, which is actually exclusive to the Sega Genesis game. So I think in the other games you have to play as like the White Ranger. So if you're wanting to play as the Green Ranger, you will have to play the Sega Genesis game. But this game is pretty cool because it is a fighting game. But you know how like in most fighting games you have 2 rounds? So in this one you beat the enemy on the first round, and they're like, your size for the most part. But then after that, they grow into a giant size, just like in the TV show. And then you have to call in your Megazord to go and fight them. It's just super epic. There's a cutscene for it, and it's just a ton of fun. And then the levels change to make the characters appear bigger. So they'll be in like, a big open area, or be in like a city where they look really big. And they did a really good job with the music in this game. So they do have the Power Rangers theme in there, but of course it has that Sega Genesis crunchy kind of metallic sound, and it just works really well for this series, for the Power Ranger style of music. But they did good on the cutscenes. It's a ton of fun to play and just listen to. And I remember the first time I was playing, and I was fighting the Green Ranger, and I beat him. And then of course, when you beat him, you have to go to the next stage where they get bigger. So he called in his freaking Dragon Zord, I believe that's what it's called, with his flute, his little flute dagger. And I was like, holy crap, that was so cool. It did like a whole cutscene and everything where he's just calling it in. I was like, oh man, it's about to go down.
We need Dinosaurs power now! Megazord activated!
But yeah, it was so epic when that happened. Him calling his Dragon Zord with his dagger or sword flute was just really cool back in the day. And it was cool that they the way they implemented it in this game. But this game is kind of simple. Each character only has about 3 unique moves. But there are, almost akin to Mortal Kombat's fatalities, there are super moves that you can pull off. But I couldn't even tell you how to do it, honestly, because it's not in the manual of the game, and it's one of those things that I was able to do as a kid on accident just by like button mashing. But it was pretty cool, and it really catches you off guard when you're able to pull it off. And I'm sure someone out there has these figured out somewhere online, so you could probably do some research and find them. But I never, found those as a kid. I just always did them on accident, but I didn't know how to do them. But the game has its standard, one-player arcade mode where it's just a 1v1 and you work your way up through the enemies until you get to the final boss. But there's also a 2-player versus mode, which is a lot of fun, or I guess it's called battle mode. But that's a ton of fun because you can choose your Power Ranger and then, of course, you know, go into the second stage and use your Megazords and stuff. It's just a really fun game to play with friends. And I was never good at it as a kid, and as you can tell, I'm not good at it now. But yeah, there's not much to say about this game. It is a kind of a basic game. There's not much to it, but it is a lot of fun. I think to me it's more fun than the Super Nintendo version. It's a little more competitive. I think they did a good job with a lot of the sprites and the level design and the way that you can just go from, like, you know, being on the ground fighting and then all of a sudden you're in your Megazord fighting the other enemy. It's just really cool. What are your guys' thoughts on this game? What is your favorite Power Rangers game? Is it the Super Nintendo version? Is it the Sega Genesis version? Is it the Game Boy version? I don't know. Let me know in the comments section below, and thank you for watching this episode of the Buried Pixels, and I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.